Welcome to the Kindred Spirits Show. I'm your host, Hannah Mary, and I'm so glad to be here with you, my friends, today. I am a homeschool guru and mommy motivator, wife, daughter, sister to 4, and mama to 3. I help women succeed at their most meaningful job, motherhood. I believe you can have joy, clarity, and purpose in your home and schedule, that you have the capacity to raise your children like no one else. Let's make our motherhood a little more meaningful today. Hello and welcome to the Kindred Spirits Show podcast. I am so excited to be bringing you this first episode. I am Hannah Mary. We are going to be friends very quickly, I assure you. I'm so excited to bring you this podcast today. Just a little bit about me. I am a wife, a mom to 3 kids, 2 biological, 1 that's a bonus kid. We homeschool all of them, well, except for the 6-month-old because she's not old enough yet. I am a Central Illinois mom, and I love my family, and I was homeschooled myself, K through 12, so not only do we homeschool, but I'm a product of homeschool. And for those of you who are listening to this going, I don't homeschool, I don't want to homeschool, welcome anyway. This show is going to be not just for homeschool moms, but for all moms. I really want to speak to you in your motherhood. I believe that you are divinely positioned to raise your children, that God picked you and you alone to be the mama to those kiddos that you're looking at right now. And I am so excited to get to talk to you in this venue, to get to chat with you, and just get to become kindred spirits, close friends. I have found in my time as a human being on the planet that friendship is basically just saying that one really scary thing you think no one else thinks like you, like how much you hate something like Jell-O, right? Like, oh, they're all going to frown at me because I don't like Jell-O, or, that one unpopular opinion, and then you just wait. You wait for the other person to say, oh my gosh, me too, or you're crazy, but I still love you. And that's how you know you found someone who is going to be your friend forever and always, basically. I just love chatting with my friends and telling them my unpopular opinions, really getting to know them. And that's what we're going to do on the show. We're going to dig in deep. We're going to get to know each other. We are going to talk about homeschooling. We are going to talk about the hard parts of motherhood. We are going to talk about the fun parts. And I 100% want this show to be positive, but not to the point where we're sugarcoating. So don't fear. It's going to be very real. I am so excited for some of the guests I'm looking to bring onto the show. I just have big plans for this show, and I'm so happy for you to be here with me, to get to know you and to be my friend. So with that said, please leave a comment below so I can get to know all of you as you're listening to this, and we're going to jump into what I want to talk about today. So the first thing I want to talk about today is COVID schooling. I won't get up on my soapbox about this because COVID schooling, distance learning, all of that is definitely not homeschooling. And I could just rant about that all night, but you don't want to hear me rant about that all night. So I am not going to do that. But what I do want to offer are some tips for those of you who are doing distance learning, who are in the throes of having your world upended and figuring out what you're doing with your life. My goal here would be to help you not just survive distance learning, if that's what you're doing this fall and possibly in the spring, depending on how the world stays crazy or doesn't, but to actually help you thrive in this, to help you let go of some of the stress of it, and to find a way to get into a good rhythm for your school year. I have heard a lot of varying concepts of how this whole distance learning, e-learning thing is working in various places. So where we are, I've had friends say, distance learning has been really easy. The teacher's been really organized. It's been great. I've had other friends from different districts say, oh my gosh, it's terrible. They're totally disorganized. I don't even know what to do. It's really hard. I've heard varying degrees of people saying like, there's so much grace and everybody's just getting along. I can log my kid off whenever I want. And I just make sure they get the work done. It's all cool. To I actually heard someone say that they didn't check in literally one day and there was a truancy officer at their door. So clearly there's quite a bit of variance on this topic. And how it's being enforced, how it's being handled from one area to another. I mean, literally one district to another. So my goal is to give you 3 tips. I'm going to give you 3 tips, and these are going to help you no matter what situation you're in, right? My hope is that you'd be able to take these tips and apply them to you and your family so that it's running smoothly for you, no matter how organized or disorganized the school district is, no matter how much they're enforcing, checking in, or whatnot. So here we go. Tip number 1, stick to a schedule. Now, I recognize this is way easier said than done, and it's kind of an obvious one. I always encourage homeschool moms when they're setting up their schedule to set it up to the natural rhythms of their day, because that just makes sense because they don't have a school to report to. Now, I'm going to tell you the very opposite. You are going to need to take your day, look at where the learning has to happen according to your school district, and then form the rest of your day around this. Now, again, easier said than done, but let me give you a few tips. 1, have lunch at the same time every day. Because that mid-break will really help all of you reset. 2, set alarms on your phone, your clocks, whatever it takes. Anything that will remind you. Part of the reason schools work is because there's that bell that rings at every, time you have to switch. You don't lose track of time because it keeps time for you. So just make your own bell. Set alarms on your phone, set reminders so that you guys know when you need to transition from one topic to another, from one room to another, from school to lunch, from lunch back to school. Really use that tool to its fullest advantage, because that number one thing is just going to set you up for so much more success than trying to like kind of just make it through the day, right? Like, okay, well, I know I get up at this time, they get up at that time, and then we kind of lose it from there. If you really force yourself into a schedule, yes, you're going to chance burnout, but you chance that anyway with school. So don't worry about the burnout. Just adhere to the reminders you set for yourself, and it will go so far. It will help you so much. When your kids physically go to school, you do this anyway, right? You just factor in where they're going to be into your day. So now you just have to factor it in even more since they're home. And it's just adding one more layer to it. So don't stress over it. Just start to create tools and ways to remind yourself to stick to your schedule. I'm here to give you the best news of your entire year. The doors to my signature course, How the Heck to Homeschool, just opened. This course is jam-packed with the 4 pillars of what you need to homeschool successfully, how to have a homeschool mindset, the answers to all of your frequently asked questions and objections, how to do it legally and correctly for you in your state, and how to build your homeschool for your family from the ground up, perfectly aligned with your values, your vision, and the education your children need. The doors are open, but they won't be for long. Head to howthehacktohomeschool.online today to sign up. This course will change your life in the best way possible. The second thing I want to share is ditch screens as much as possible. So screens are like the number one issue for behavior in children. I highly suggest you follow a great guy called Colin Kratchner. I will link to his website in the show notes. He talks about kids and screens, and specifically social media, but screens in general, and how much that is harmful for them. And guess what? If your kid is e-learning and they're on the computer for a huge amount of time a day, you want to factor that in. You may need to cut back on the time they're watching TV, on the time that they're on a device. I say just get rid of the devices. I can tell you right now, we got rid of handheld devices for our son, and I've seen a 180 in his behavior, way less hyper, way more interactive, imagination, just great. So I highly recommend that. But really think about the fact that your kid is sitting in front of a screen for X amount of time and factor that into their time later. If you need to track their screen time, then do that. When I was little, my mom actually had like little credits that she made, and we got so much TV time a day, and we could spend it in like 30-minute or hour increments. And then once our time ran out, we couldn't watch any more TV. And this was genius because it, one, taught us to budget through time, and two, we would save it for the things we really wanted to watch. So if there was just a random show and we didn't feel like spending our time card on it, then we would just skip that show and we turn the TV off and do something else. So I recommend that. I think that's a really good way to handle that. And then our final tip number 3, is encourage and even maybe require reading. The more books you can pump into your kids, and I'm talking about not just comic books or fiction, but a varying kind of books, from classic fiction to nonfiction to modern fiction and everything in between, the more reading that they do, the more they learn, the bigger the vocabulary gets. Reading will teach them concepts and help fill the gaps that may arise in this time where people are still figuring out what they're doing. Reading is the ultimate teacher. You will never convince me otherwise. Reading is the best thing for your child. So for us, we require at least a chapter a day out of our 10-year-old before she watches any TV. We require our son to read. And by require him to read, I mean I read him books because he's 5 and he's still learning. But require reading. Find a book report sheet, a really simple one. Pinterest has so many free printable ones. Find one, print out a bunch of them, keep them on hand, give them like a piece of candy, or I know you're not supposed to reward with food, but give them a piece of candy, give them a little toy, something. If they fill out a book report on the book that they finished, just really reward and focus on reading. If you do nothing else during this time, put great literature in front of them. Help them to explore literature. Don't let them get caught up in just reading one series over and over. Require them to read something else. Reading is their best teacher. It will teach them so much, so much. And now that I've given you those 3 tips, I just want to say one final thing, and that is, you are allowed to change your mind. So let's say you're doing your best. You start off strong. You find that your child isn't doing well with distance learning. You're struggling with the schedule. You have permission to change. You can change to homeschooling. You can put them back in school if you feel comfortable and your district is open. There is a plethora of options available to you. There are co-ops that you could become a part of if you want to pull them out of the public school and do something more at home. Find what works for you. You are the boss of your child's education. You get to steer the ship, so to speak. So don't be afraid if you see that your child is lacking in an area or just is really struggling with what you've chosen for the year. Don't be afraid to let go of it and try something different. I know that can sound scary, but at the same time, I think sometimes we just need permission to let go of the thing we thought was going to work. And so this is me giving you permission to let go of the thing you thought was going to work, that you are struggling with. If that is you, then just let it go. Remember, at any point in this semester, when you feel overwhelmed, you have the choice to change something, and you are the one who steers your child's education. I want to chat for just a second about the name of this show, the Kindred Spirits Show. This is a semi-common phrase, but I do just want to share with you on a personal note, because that's how we get to know each other, right? We share something about ourselves and we wait for the other person to say, aha, I totally agree, or aha, I disagree, but we can still be friends. So The name of the show, first off, I get asked about this because this is also my handle on Instagram. I'm at Forever Kindred Spirits. And the name comes from my favorite book series of all time, talking about reading to your kids, right? Anne of Green Gables, best book ever, best series ever. And she just loves finding kindred spirits. She loves finding new friends who she can dream with, who she can do life with. And so that's where the name of the show comes from. It's where the name for my Instagram and my blog came from. So a kindred spirit in the book is someone with whom you have a connection, a similarity, an endearment, that helps you to become friends. And Anne develops these beautiful and deep friendships throughout the series. And that's what I want to do here. I want to develop beautiful and deep friendships with you guys. And another factor in this name for me was also that I wanted something that would encompass how I'm raising my children. And I believe that siblings should be best friends. I am best friends with my 4 siblings. And so raising kindred spirits just seemed to fit. And so here I am, the Kindred Spirits Show. And to close out this first episode, I just want to read you a little snippet from Ellen Montgomery's beautiful work, Anne of Green Gables. Miss Barry was a kindred spirit after all, Anne confided to Marilla. You wouldn't think so to look at her, but she is. You don't find it right out at first, as in Matthew's case, but after a while you come to see it. I know that this episode was a little bit shorter than some other ones today, but I just wanted to give you those 3 tips and tell you a little bit about the name. And I have more coming, so this is just the start. It is my goal to keep these around 30 minutes so that they're easy, bite-sized things that you guys can listen to throughout your day. And that way I'm not overwhelming you with like hour-long episodes. I know I like shorter episodes, so that's what I'm bringing to you. And if you comment and let me know you want longer ones, then maybe we'll adjust in the future. But I just wanted to bring you these encouragements and tips today, and I will see you next week. Thank you for listening today. I hope you found a little encouragement from today's topic. If you like this podcast, make sure to like and subscribe to it. If you absolutely loved this episode, leave a review. I love reading what you guys have to say about the show. I appreciate your support so much. You can find more from me at foreverkindredspirits.com, including the show notes from this episode, free downloads, and online courses. If you want to join the conversation, you can find the Kindred Spirits Show Facebook group in the show notes for this episode. I will see you next week. I'm always rooting for you.